We're going to learn a little bit more about some C-like functions in MATLAB and Octave today. But this video is kind of like how to do projects like we did in in the C lesson series in MATLAB. How do you take multiple files and do things on a folder full of data files, for example? So that's what we're going to do here. And so I have this example folder, calib_data. And when you look inside of it, it's got data 01, data 02, data 03, up to data10.txt. It's just 10-point XY pairs, calibration data, just like you've seen before in these video series. Good. So I just took a lot of those old calibration data and I turned 10 of them into these different new names where I just have data 01 through data 10, 10 data files. Good. Okay. So let's make a new folder. All right. So I go in, I make a new folder, load calib2. So I put load calib2 in there and I put this calib_data directory in it. Right. So I put the data file, the data folder inside my folder for my new project, load calib2. Then I go into Octave, I get into the right folder, and then I'm going to edit load calib2.m. In this case, we can use the load function here, but I need to generate the file name of each file that we have, including its path, right? So it's pretty easy to do in MATLAB and Octave. You don't need to use sprintf, for example. You can. So there is sprintf as well in MATLAB and Octave, but you don't really need to do that. You can construct a string just with square brackets. Just like you can construct an array of numbers, you can construct an array of characters using the same kind of features, semicolon and spaces and all that stuff. Same kind of deal. So I'm going to do that to generate the file name here. And so the first step is I'm going to make a loop. I'm going to go through 10 times, I equals 1 to 10, for I equals 1 to 10. And then we're going to make a string variable, fname. You see the path is there. And then I'm going to do num to string, right? So num to string I. I'm going to convert the number I, that's going to go from 1 to 10, into a string. This is just like sprinting f when you use a % character inside the sprintf statement, same thing. Right, so let's look and see how that looks. Let's just save that and run it. And you can see that it has data 1, data 2, data 3, all the way up to data 10. But wait a minute. So I'm going to go into calib data. I'm going to look there. It's not. It's data 01, data 02. This is that using percent and then numbers in front of a D in order to, when we did it in C, this is the same kind of thing where we have format. It goes from 01 to 10, not 1 to 10. Very common in data file names, and so I wanted to include this in a MATLAB and Octave lesson as well, right? And so I go back into the load calib2 file, M file, and then I'm going to change it in num to string, right? When I look at num to string, when I do num to string, if you look at the help for num to string, you can give it format statements. So I want to do num to string on I, but I want to make it a %02D. I want to make it 01 through 10, 10. Pretty cool. So it does that too. So num to string will do formatting for you. I save that. When I go back into the command window and run it again, you can see that the file names are right. Now the file name, now I got fname right in this loop. So it's scrolling through the right name each time, 10 times through the loop. So I want to do the linear regression on all 10 data files. That's what I want to do. So I want to do the linear regression on all those data files. So the first thing I got to do is I got to go get linreg. So I go to linreg2 folder, I grab linreg and the function m file, linreg the function, and I bring that into my load calib2 directory. Then inside the for loop, I'm going to do the same kind of thing we did in doing the calibration data. I'm going to say a equals load fname. Now I just have fname there, and then x is the first column of a, y is the second column of a, and then I do the linear regression. Here I have m sub I, b sub I, and r2 sub I. So I'm going to fill up So M, B, and R2 are going to be 10 element vectors, right? They're going to be 10 element, 10 by 1 or 1 by 10 actually arrays. They're going to have the slope, intercept, and R squared values of each of the 10 files in them. Good? Okay, so that's new. That's a new way to do that. At the end, when I go MBR2, it's going to print them out. Okay, so let's run that. Let's save it, then run it in the command window, load calib2. And then you see that MB and R2 are all one row, several columns. All right, so I'm going to transpose them, but I'm going to make a whole new variable, out, the output of this script, right? So I'm going to say out equals, and then I'm going to have 1 to 10 prime, so that's going to be the first column. Then M prime, which is the slope, that's the second column. B prime is the third column, and R2 prime is the fourth column of this new matrix, this output matrix. And so I'm going to print that out to the screen. Save that. I run that script, load calib2. You can see out comes out. It's all in exponential format. It's a little kludgy. It's not perfect, but it's the data. It works. Here's another thing you can do in MATLAB is you can save that data to a file in lots of different formats. I usually save things as text files. So let's save this file. So save -ASCII means I want to save it as an ASCII text file. Save space dash ASCII, the name, calib.txt, the name of the file that I want to save it to, and then all the variables. So you can have more than one variable. I just have out. I usually only have one variable in my output statement when I'm saving something to a file. So I just save it all as out, and then I use out in that save line. Okay. So I put a semicolon after what out is, so it's not going to print that out again. And I do Control S, I save. Then I go back into the command window and run load calib2. Nothing shows up on the thing, but lo and behold, if you go to the file part here on the left, and instead of workspace, if you go to the look at the file space, you can see that now there's this new calib.txt. If you double click on that, it'll come up either in a text editor like Notepad, or it probably comes up in Notepad++. It might come up in Octave or MATLAB as well. It just depends, but you'll just see it as a text file, and it comes up and you can see that it's all those numbers there. It's not very pretty, but it works. Good. Next video, we're going to make it prettier, so it's actually going to actually look like a real nice data file. So that's coming in next video. Here, we learned about constructing data file names using just square brackets instead of sprintf. MATLAB and Octave are easy to manipulate strings. It's easy to manipulate strings in MATLAB.